How to pollinate plants in a greenhouse. This is one of the most common questions that I get. And in my greenhouses where I'm just growing these pepper plants here, the only thing I need to do to pollinate them is allow the pollen to fall out of the flower. So the way I do this is for the most part, I just let them be. A slight breeze or vibration is all that's needed to get these plants pollinated. And you can see there's a ton of peppers already growing on these plants. And I haven't done any extra steps to pollinate them. I have a fan running in the corner here or at the end that helps with airflow. It might help shake the flowers a little bit to knock that pollen out. The exhaust fans over there also turn on, so there is a breeze that comes through the greenhouse. That's pretty much all that's needed for successful pollination. Not sure if I mentioned it, but a slight vibration on the plant can shake that pollen out. With pepper plants, we don't need pollen to go from one flower to the other flower. It just needs to shake out of the flower. That's it. There is some issues that I have with pollination, but it's mostly due to temperature and some other factors. So here's an example here. So with this Poblano pepper here, we have this little tail, and this is a sign of poor pollination. So you could also see it here. This is when it's smaller. It's starting to get that little tail. So I believe that is mostly caused from temperature swings, and that's one of the issues I have in these greenhouses. Is the temperature, especially at the beginning of the season, tends to drop below the ideal temperature, and then the daytime it gets a lot higher, so there is large temperature swings. So I believe it's the low temperature at night that is causing the deformed fruit like that. We could often see the structure and the size of the flower before it's even pollinated, and you could tell before the flower even opens whether it's going to be a deformed fruit or not. In this greenhouse, it's a little bit more difficult to tell the flowers, but in the bell pepper greenhouse, it's really easy to know if they're going to be deformed or not. So oftentimes we'll see a flower that is extremely large, or the flower is pointed upright instead of pointing down like this, and that's generally a sign that the fruit will probably be deformed. Another factor that could affect the pollination is humidity. So if it's very humid in the greenhouse and it never dries up enough to basically shake that pollen out, the pollen gets a little bit clumpy if it's too humid, so that could be another factor that's causing poor pollination. But in general, the pollination is pretty good in these greenhouses. You can see our jalapeños here, and they're coming in pretty good. So later in the season, as the temperatures warm up, the pollination tends to get better. So here's an example of a deformed fruit right here. We could see this little additional growth on the side of this jalapeno. I believe that's probably also caused from poor pollination. I'm not 100%, but regardless, it's still fine. It's just a little ugly, so it's still good to eat. So I'll take you to the other greenhouse over here where we are growing our kind cayenne peppers and our habaneros, and we'll take a look at the flowers and fruit over there. So this is where the cayenne peppers are growing and the habaneros. So these ones, they haven't, oh yeah, we do have the first flower on here. Over here with the cayenne peppers, they're a little bit ahead, but there is some nice peppers growing at the bottom here. And so I'll see if I can find a nice flower that I could shake out. So right here, if I shake it, no, that pollen already came out. So that's all that needs to happen. The pollen just needs to shake out. In the bell pepper greenhouse here, we have some decent pollination, but it's not going perfect, just like the other greenhouse. We have some bell pepper fruits growing here, and these ones look really good. This is a good example of a nice pollination. I'll try to find one right here. This is one, if I could get a good look of it. Right there, you see that deformed thing that comes off the side, just like the jalapeno plant I showed you. Another example is this one here, where the pepper, it kind of looks flat. It's not really coming out blocky like this one. So this here looks kind of flat. This is an example of pollination that did not go perfectly. And the fruits, they still turn out fine. They're just not as nice as one that's properly pollinated. They don't get as big, and they're just not as nice looking. So right here, this is an example of a flower that's pointing upright, and I could already tell that this pepper is not going to turn into a nice looking one. What we're looking for is flowers that look more like this. They're pointed down and they're not too large. This one here, it's kind of pointed down a little bit, but the flower is actually too large. And when a flower is too large like that, the fruit usually doesn't turn out the best. So it's kind of a challenge to get these peppers growing perfectly when it comes to pollination. Like I said, the temperature is one of the largest factors that's affecting the pollination in these greenhouses. And you might think, how do I have bad temperatures in a greenhouse that's climate controlled? Well, I use these space heaters here to heat the greenhouse, and the temperature dials on them, they're not like super accurate. So I could set it to a range, but when it comes on, the temperature tends to climb a little bit until the heater turns off, and then the temperature drops quite a bit until it comes back on again. The ideal temperature for heating the greenhouse and cooling the greenhouse is very close. It's around 20 degrees Celsius. So there's not much buffer room between the heaters coming on and the fans turning on. So what happens in these greenhouses, if I have the heater set too high, the heater could turn on and then the fans turn on, and then we're heating the greenhouse, and the heat that we're putting into the greenhouse is just blowing right out the fan. So we're essentially heating the outside at that point. So it's not a perfect system in these greenhouses. A climate control where the heaters and the fans are all operating on the same sensor and control system is more ideal. I don't have that. That's kind of more of like a high-tech greenhouse. I could probably figure out some ways to make it work, but this is just what I'm working with at the moment. I'll show you some of the peppers on this side here. They're actually looking pretty good. Ooh, almost fell here. So over here we have some nice looking peppers coming in, and we actually have quite a large one down here. I usually take the first fruit off these pepper plants, but this one I just missed it, so it's just growing. I'm just gonna let it be. And there's a nice looking one here. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenge to get these fruits looking perfectly, but overall I do still get some decent fruits out of these greenhouses. So if you guys are interested in how I'm growing these plants and more about like fertilizing and all the other stuff that's happening, follow along. There's a ton of videos that I'll be posting. There's already a ton of videos on the channel right now. So I'll see you guys in some of the next videos.